Coming out of high school, Adam Breneman was the best tight end in the country, being called Penn State's savior and a surefire first-round draft pick. But what if I told you that just a few years later, he seemingly disappeared from college football completely? Well, that's exactly what happened. And to figure out the truth behind his rapid decline, let's go back to the beginning, when he was born in 1995 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to Sherry and Brian, who was a former Division II All-American tight end himself. Unsurprisingly, Adam grew up a huge fan of Joe Paterno's Penn State Nittany Lions, although it wasn't always obvious that he'd end up playing there, for multiple reasons, least of which was the fact that up until his freshman year of high school, Adam wasn't particularly tall, or even a very good athlete. But when he turned 14, he shot up to 6'4". And by his junior year, Adam was a 5-star recruit and rated as the top tight end in the class of 2013 by ESPN. This earned him over 30 offers, but on March 9, 2012, after narrowing down his choices to Ohio State, Maryland, Notre Dame, and Penn State, he made the decision that pretty much everyone saw coming, committing to the school just 90 minutes away from where he grew up. Adam would go on to graduate from Cedar Cliff High School a semester early after tearing his ACL and missing his entire senior season. But even after missing a full year, he graduated as the state of Pennsylvania's all-time leader in receiving by a tight end, as well as setting his high school's career records for yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns. But then, just 5 months after committing to his dream school, his entire decision was thrown into question. For those of you who don't remember, 2012 was probably the darkest year for any program in college football history. Penn State had just been hit with a near-death penalty following the conviction of Jerry Sandusky. The program was given a 4-year bowl ban, scholarship reductions, and had to vacate all of its wins from 1998 to 2011. Because of this, Adam, as well as every other recruit, was given the opportunity to freely transfer to another school without having to sit out for a year. So his entire recruiting class started calling the coaches at the schools they all had offers from, like Florida and South Carolina. But then they got called in for a meeting where they heard one final pitch for why they should stay committed to Penn State.
And I remember Bill O'Brien saying to us, if you come to Penn State during this time, you will never be forgotten in Penn State history. And we decided in that moment that we were all going to stay at Penn State, and we were going to go to Penn State despite the sanctions and despite the NCAA trying to tear down the program. And we went upstairs at Coach O'Brien's office and told him we were staying.
Adam would go on to have a breakout season for the Nittany Lions during his freshman year, being named a 247sports.com True Freshman All-American and putting him on track to be a first-round draft pick in 2 short years. But as fate would have it, Bill O'Brien and Adam Breneman would only share the same sideline one more time, and under much different circumstances. But what went wrong, and why was Adam, who had all the potential of becoming a Penn State legend, forced to live out his college football dream somewhere else? Well, to understand that, it's best to start by describing what actually happened to him. See, Adam had a breakout performance in the last game of his freshman year, catching 3 passes for 78 yards and a touchdown. However, during that game, he fell on his left knee, chipping a piece of cartilage. Now, in the short term, this wasn't a big deal, so he went on practicing as normal all offseason. But this was the type of injury that got worse over time, to the point that Adam had to get surgery in 2014, which resulted in him missing the next 2 seasons at Penn State. In fact, the chipped cartilage actually caused his knee to deteriorate so badly that he was forced to retire in 2016, effectively ending his promising young football career at just 20 years old, and leading him to hate the sport in which he had failed to live up to his 5-star expectations. So after graduating from Penn State in December of 2015, he jumped straight into a career in politics, getting hired as the campaign manager for Pennsylvania State Senate candidate Mike Regan. And at just 20 years old, Adam was put in charge of a $2.5 million budget as well as a full campaign staff. In fact, after he and Mike won their race in 2016, Mike offered Adam a full-time job as his chief of staff, an opportunity that most people don't get until they're 35 or even 40 years old. So naturally, Adam said yes. But as he began preparing for his new career at the state capitol, he got a call from his old high school quarterback, Andrew Ford.
Andrew met with me and was like, dude, let's see how your knee feels. Like, if your knee feels good, like, don't you think you owe it to yourself? Like, you're so talented to see if you could just keep playing this game and maybe play. Even if you played 2 years in the NFL, it would change your life, right? Like you could always feel better about your career. And I said, okay, like, I'll see if I can run. I'll see how I feel. So we went to the turf that night, threw passes around. I felt good. I said, man, I feel pretty good. Next day, ran routes again. Feel pretty good. This was like summertime of 2016. Made the decision pretty quickly, like, I'm gonna try this thing out. Called Mark Whipple at UMass and said, Coach Whip, I'm back. I think I can play. Can you give me a chance at UMass? Like, I want to come play at UMass. And Coach Whipple was like, full ride, come to UMass, you'll be our star tight end, I'll throw you the ball 15 times a game.
So just 5 months after announcing his retirement, Adam transferred to UMass with 2 years of eligibility remaining. He entered the 2016 season as the highest rated recruit in school history, and by the end of his first year with the Minutemen, he was leading the nation in receiving by a tight end and had been named an All-American. He did the same thing again in 2017, which launched him up NFL draft boards in a year that included guys like Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, and Mike Gesicki. But despite all of his success, there was a secret Adam was hiding, and he was waiting until the very last moment to reveal it. Now, in my opinion, watching sports has become a little more fun since I started sprinkling some money around on the games. The only issue is, in order to be a profitable sports bettor, you have to win over 53% of the time. And let me tell you, for a long time, I was not. But luckily, there's now a way to guarantee profit when sports betting. And no, this isn't some pyramid scheme. It's actually a strategy professional bettors use called arbitraging, and OddsJam has a tool that makes doing it easier than ever. Check this out. We've got a Paulskeen strikeout line set at 7.5. The odds are different across 2 different sportsbooks. So you throw down $1,000 on the over on one, and OddsJam tells you to put $1,423.41 on the under on the other. And guess what? No matter what happens in the game, you're locked in for a guaranteed profit of $216.59, or an 8.2% return. Zero risk, just profit. And the best part, OddsJam does all the hard work. No more hours digging through odds, just fire it up, let the tool find these opportunities, and you're ready to go. So if you're ready to actually make money sports betting, use my promo code TylerWebb to get 35% off and a 7-day free trial of this tool. It'll pay for itself, and you can thank me later. By the time Adam had reached the Senior Bowl just 2 months before the 2018 NFL Draft, the pain in his left knee was worse than it had ever been before. In fact, leading up to the draft, Adam had dozens of NFL scouts coming to see him practice at UMass every week. But because of his knee, he wasn't able to practice at all during his senior year. Instead, his coaches and trainers would tell scouts that it was a nagging hamstring injury keeping him out of practice. Meanwhile, Adam was receiving weekly Toradol injections just so he could play in games on Saturdays. And even after flying across the country to consult with several of the best doctors in the world, he was left with the same outlook. He needed another surgery, but if teams found out about it, it would make him virtually undraftable. However, Adam had no choice but to get the surgery, since at this point, he couldn't even run normally. So he devised a plan to hide the injury from teams and scouts until after he got drafted, and then get the surgery once he was already on an NFL roster.
I mean, the plan was that I was going to go out there in the first practice and fake a hamstring injury because I couldn't practice, but I also couldn't say that I couldn't practice until I got out there. So the hardest part too was Bill O'Brien at that point was also my coach at the Senior Bowl. So it was like a cool homecoming story. All the media's covering Adam Breneman's back on Bill O'Brien's team at the Senior Bowl. And, you know, Bill O'Brien's meeting with me. I can't tell Coach O'Brien either, of course. He can't know. So, I mean, it was a rough time, man. I had so much anxiety that week of just trying to get through. And I remember being in tears one night in my room. I was roommates with Dallas Goedert, the now Eagles tight end. He was my roommate at the Senior Bowl. I remember being in just like I was like tearing up and like trying to not let him see that I was getting emotional because it was like the day before practice. And I was like, man, I cannot do this. Like, what's going to happen? I don't want to go fake this thing. And I went out there and first rep of routes on air, I go down with a hamstring injury, walk off the field, pretend I pulled my hamstring, and I sit out the rest of the Senior Bowl.
However, Adam's secret ended up getting out a month before the 2018 NFL Draft, leading him to retire from football for a second time at just 22 years old. And now without football or even a career in politics to fall back on, Adam started to focus on his next goal, becoming a Power 5 head coach by the age of 30. And just like he had in politics, he was given an opportunity to get a massive head start. It was 2020 and Herm Edwards needed a graduate assistant to help coach tight ends at Arizona State. Recommended by an old strength and conditioning coach, Adam was offered the position on a Thursday and arrived in Tempe that Sunday, accepting a measly salary of $25,000 per year. However, just 10 months later, and Adam was promoted to the full-time tight ends coach, making him the youngest Power 5 coach in the nation. But by January 2022, all those positive headlines had turned against him. That's because Adam was forced to resign amidst a recruiting scandal that ended up getting every ASU coach from Herm Edwards to Antonio Pierce fired. As Peter Thamel reported at the time, Adam was among the coaches who fell in line with associate head coach Antonio Pierce's aggressive recruiting tactics. Adam specifically was forced to resign in January 2022 for purchasing a $600 plane ticket for a recruit to visit ASU during COVID, when the NCAA explicitly banned on-campus visits. Adam describes this as one of the lowest points of his life, but it didn't stay like that for long.
I had the choice, like, do I want to coach the NFL? Do I want to go somewhere else? And for me, I had a really sour taste in my mouth after that experience about coaching at Arizona State. And I also saw this opportunity in media, considering I had a background as a 5-star recruit, an All-American tight end at 2 different places. I went through the draft process. I was a Power 5 coach. I was one of the best recruiters in the country, that I could build a media career off of that, and that I had all this experience that I could go be Gen Z and millennials college football voice on social media, online, and on television. And that's when I went all in on it, transitioning out of Arizona State. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made, and got me to now where I am today. And it's funny looking back on that moment at Arizona State, thought it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. Thought my life was over, right? And looking back now, ended up being the best thing that happened to me.
And building a career in media is exactly what Adam did. Starting first with creating social media content for his personal brand after seeing the success new age broadcast personalities were having, and then eventually landing a college football analyst role with CBS. This led him to start the College Sports Co., which creates athlete-driven content for college athletic departments across the country. To date, the company has raised several $1 million, although Adam wouldn't confirm the exact number. However, he did say the company is valued at least $10 million.
What we do is we build athlete-driven media networks and build content at the biggest schools and collectives around the country, and then monetize those media networks through sponsorship and advertising to drive money for NIL. We're at 5 schools right now, and the schools that we sign, the deals that we do are multiple year deals where we get paid multiple 6 figures by the schools. And then we take upside in all the revenue share as well. And the value we bring, schools and collectives are happy to pay us that because we're driving them millions of dollars in new NIL revenue. In the path to becoming a $1 billion business is doing that at a ton of different schools, doing it at a bunch of different sports. At some point, maybe there's a pro sports side of it. Like, I think that the growth for us is just continuing to execute at the schools we have and then growing at more schools and collectives around the country.
But building what he describes as a $1 billion business isn't actually his end goal. In fact, he shared his true North Star with me publicly for the very first time.
Listen, I'm not saying that in 5 years I won't be coaching again at some point. Like, I'll say it, like, one of my goals, I have a North Star on my whiteboard right behind me, is that I want to build my media career, build my businesses, and at some point I want to go be a head football coach in college football at a Power 4 program. And I want to go back into it, and I want to build everything and prove my value and prove to someone in the next, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but like, that's my North Star. I want to go be a Deion Sanders at Colorado, or someone who goes from media into the football space and be a head football coach. I think without a doubt, with where college football is today, I can do the things that matter. I can recruit at a high level. I can talk to the media. I can build excitement. I can raise money from donors. I can build a social media presence. I can do the things that I can raise NIL money. I can do the things that matter in today's college football. And I have a great network in football where I can build one of the best staffs in the country. So I never really have said this publicly before, but that's my North Star in 5 years, in 10 years, and whatever it looks like, to go be a Power 5 head football coach, for sure, is what I want to do ultimately. And it's just a different path, a different journey to get there. And in the meantime, I get to do what I'm passionate about, be a media personality, build businesses, and bring a lot of people along the way while I do it.
Today, Adam continues to follow the Pat McAfee model, recently signing a multi-year 7-figure deal with Prize Picks while continuing to run 5 different companies, including an investment group, a real estate company, and a media agency. If you made it this far, drop in the comments who you think I should interview next. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. If you want to listen to the full interview I did with Adam, the link to that is in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.